Joining me now is Yael Schacher. She's with Refugees International. Thanks for joining us, Yael.
Thanks for having me.
Yael, help us understand, what is a safe third country agreement?
Well, the United States only has one agreement, and it's with Canada. The agreement allows for asylum seekers to pass through Canada to apply for asylum, requires that they seek asylum there rather than in the United States. The agreement with Guatemala is actually not a safe third country agreement. It's called an asylum cooperative agreement. The reason it's not a safe third country agreement is because really Guatemala is not safe to return people to from the border, and it doesn't really have a process to or people or asylum officers in Guatemala who can process asylum claims there. So it's quite a problematic agreement.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And does Guatemala have the infrastructure to receive asylum seekers in the first place? Because Guatemala is already a refugee-producing country.
That's right. I mean, in 2018, there were 262, I believe, asylum seekers who sought asylum in Guatemala, and Guatemala had less than 10 asylum officers actually working in its asylum office. So it really does not have the kind of capacity to process many asylum seekers. And the Honduran who was returned actually was only given sort of a 3-day pass to stay in Guatemala, and seems to be returning to actually Honduras, his home country, through the help of the International Organization for Migration. So the problem with this agreement is that the United States isn't giving people who come to the border a chance to have their claims heard there, and instead returning them to Guatemala, which, as you said, is a refugee-producing country, has high levels of violence, especially against women and indigenous people, and does not have the capacity to process asylum claims right now. The man who came back from Honduras, it's not clear. Neither DHS knew that he would not have a place to stay or food, didn't know who would be providing that for him in Guatemala. And also the asylum officers were told, the asylum officers in the United States are trained. They know how violent Guatemala is. They know the poverty rates there, the malnutrition rates there, the corruption and the violence. And yet they still are not allowed to screen people effectively at the border and must send them back to Guatemala to have their claims processed there. The people who will be part of this program will not be able to apply for asylum in the United States.
Yael, are there other similar agreements with other countries in the pipeline?
There are the same kind of asylum cooperative agreements. Again, I'm reluctant to call them safe third country agreements because these countries aren't really safe. They've been signed with Honduras and El Salvador as well. They haven't been implemented yet, but it seems like they'll be implemented in the future. And DHS officials, the Department of Homeland Security officials, it will be up to their discretion to basically send folks to any of these 3 countries once all of these agreements are implemented.
Well, thank you, Yael, for sharing all of that information with us. Yael Schacher from the Refugees International.